Welcome to the show where the magic unfolds. Technology and art, a story yet untold. From Lagos to Nairobi, Accra to Johannesburg, we're vibing to the beat. Let the rhythm take control. Oh, tech and art come together, we breaking new ground.
Welcome to the Tech Arts and Soul podcast. My name is Michael Komla Opare, and I do this with Ni. You're looking traditional today.
Thank you, Michael. Yes, I have to be.
What informed the choice?
It's about the topic we are going to discuss today. We are looking at migration and its impact on the tech and art ecosystem in Africa and beyond. And so I'm really excited. That's also because in recent times we've seen a spike in the number of African talents leaving the continent to developed ecosystems to seek greener pastures. So I'm really interested in what our guests have to share with us today.
Great. Guys, we are not doing this alone. We are doing it with Dede and Kirsty, and I'll give them an opportunity to introduce themselves to you. Kirsty, can you tell us a bit about yourself and what you do?
Yes, hello. Thank you for having me. I'm Kirsty. I am a researcher, a storyteller, and I like to call myself a fake historian as well because of my interest in learning more about Ghana's history and sharing it. But as for my research is on migration, specifically African migration, more specifically African diaspora issues, and even within that, issues pertaining to children of Ghanaian or children of immigrants, children of African immigrants, and as a Ghanaian, I tend to focus on the experiences of children of Ghanaian immigrants because that's my lived experience.
All right, you're welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Dede.
Hello, everyone. My name is Afua and I am a private chef. I wasn't always that, though. I studied biological science at the tertiary level.
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Background in biological
Yes,
science.
background. Really? Did you?
I also studied biological science.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah, so
Me too.
I
I changed. I only lasted 2 years and I switched.
Wow, you guys.
Wow.
We all have a background story to tell, eh?
yes,
And we all ran away. Did we all run away from it?
Yes.
we all did.
oh, interesting.
Very. I lived abroad for about 8.5 years, but I recently moved back in July 2002. So I'm in Ghana now.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Oh, Michael,
Great.
I told you, we are in good hands.
And yes, Dede, what has been your personal migration story?
My personal migration story, I would say, started with my parents. My parents always were away from Ghana. My mom grew up a bit in the UK. My dad also did, quite some time in Canada. So I think for my sister and I as kids, we knew that some way or the other we might not be here full time.
Okay.
But I decided to leave after uni. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I was away 8.5 years. But family life is what more or less brought me back to Ghana. Yeah. Yeah.
No love in the air.
Why does Ni have that smile on his face?
Well, you said family life brought you back to Ghana, so
Yeah.
it's giving me an idea.
It was the idea.
He's tall looking, dark skinned guy or
Why does he have to be dark? Why does he have to be girl fatty?
Oh, it's the melanin.
Eh.
It's Africa, melanin.
So if he's not dark, it's a problem.
Oh, I mean, if it's still fair, there's melanin.
No. So my husband and I actually met in Ghana. He is Ghanaian.
Ah.
And then I left for Canada, and then he later followed after we got married.
Okay.
And then we had children. So I would say it's more the children that brought us back because
Oh, okay.
I think I had at least a 10-year plan.
Okay.
Mm.
So I wanted to come back at least after 10 years, test the waters and see. But it had to be cut short, and then because of the kids.
Okay.
I mean, when you're there, the quality of your life is different. I go to work in the day. My husband goes to work at night. We're not really seeing each other. If we're fortunate, we get maybe like a 1 hour gap where we're both, there at the same time, and then one has to go. And, we don't have access to things like domestic help so easily and stuff like that over there. Okay. So, and also it's important for the children to have community. Yeah, my son was a little bit intimidated when he started school. He was the only black kid in his class. So we feel that even delayed his development a little bit, because the minute we came back to Ghana and we enrolled him in school, everything changed. It was amazing. He even had vocabulary we didn't even know he had. So I think that for us was important, mainly for the kids. Yeah.
Okay. And Kirsty, what's your personal story in terms of the migration?
So in relation to Ghana, my parents are the immigrants. But myself, I'm also an immigrant because I've left the U.S. where I was born and raised, and I live in the U.K. now. Okay. But for my parents, so my father left Ghana in the early 1970s to go to school. My mother left in 1980, and they met in the United States, which is, I think, a bit different from what I've heard. A lot of my friends' parents met in Ghana, and they moved as couples, but my parents met in the U.S. And so I know both of my parents have said that neither one of them, when they left, imagined that they would stay in America for as long as they have. For my dad, it's been over 50 years at this point.
Wow.
Yeah. So he spent most of his life in the United States. And so for him, so for both of them, when they left, they thought they would eventually make their way back to Ghana, but that was not the case. And now I'm actually the one that's spending more time in Ghana than they are. Yeah.
Why didn't they return?
So for my dad, when he left in the early 70s, Ghana was having some political upheaval, frequent coups and all of that. So when he would finish a degree and want to return to Ghana, a coup would happen, and his family would say, things are unstable here, so just stay in the U.S., go for another degree. And same thing would happen till he, reached the end of his PhD at this point, in the 1980s, and by that point had been settled. And then in the 80s as well, Ghana, I think, was having an especially difficult time, and then putting on my migration hat, this is where we see essentially the creation of the Ghanaian diaspora as it exists today, right? So it wasn't just, people that my dad who couldn't, come back. People were also leaving in mass, in exodus for a variety of reasons. So for my dad, things just never got stable enough for him to come back. And by the time that they did, he had met my mother, they had my sister and I. And I think they had even considered coming back to Ghana when my sister and I were quite young. But at that point, I think they had settled.
They were established.
Yeah. They had settled. They had been established. They were, their family members. I had uncles. Their siblings were living not too far from us as well, living in a very well-established Ghanaian community in the Washington D.C. area. So they stayed.
Okay.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
For you, how is the migration conversation within the communities that you speak to? So your community of friends or people that you know, how has the conversation been like?
Okay, so let me start with a personal experience because I have some of my cousins and actually uncles who are living outside Ghana, and there are those that have actually changed their citizenship. They become German, some have become British, some have become Americans, what have you. And so I perfectly understand their reasons for making those decisions. So for one of my cousins, it was purely economic. He was a technical person interested in making shoes. And when he started his trade here, he was not getting a lot of support. But fortunately, he was able to get some connections in Europe. And that's what, informed his decision to stay there. For my uncles, it was also by virtue of the work that he was doing that also took him there. But let me also share some indirect experiences. So growing up, especially during Christmas, you have a lot of these borgas coming to town. Yeah. And they come around and, they have dollars, pounds, euros, and they kind of have a way of taking all the ladies away.
Wow.
And it keeps all the local boys wondering. Like, I mean,
What's
how can
out
we
there?
Gotta up your game, up your game.
you know, so it sort of created an esteem problem, and it became the aspiration of a lot of the local boys wanting to go out there and also make some dollars and euros and pounds to come in and woo the girls here. Okay. So that's one of the things that I saw. But I grew up, I had opportunity to go out there and then, you know, experience things for myself. And they did mention earlier that whilst in Canada, they had little family time because it was about work. I think 90% of their lives was about working.
Yeah.
And so I had a taste of that. Mm-hmm. And so I perfectly understand what you are saying. But then when you come back to our reality here, there are those that feel that if I have to go elsewhere and spend 95% of my life working, you know, and even have little time for enjoying myself, little time for recreation, little time for family life, considering the economic mess that we are in, it's worth it. I'm willing to pay that price and go. But I don't know if Dede and Kirsty disagrees or agrees with that sentiment.
I mean, at the end of the day, yes, you are right. Like, we need to work, we need to survive. And especially if you have kids, you know, you need to provide for your kids and stuff. But I think more so even why my 10-year plan was cut short, because at a point my husband was just like, listen, what is the quality of our life? Even if you have the money, even if you can have a comfortable family life, what is the quality of your life? What are your children remembering apart from mom and dad being at work for 12 hours? You know, like, what is the quality of life? And I think for him being there, he didn't have a good support system. Of course, because I left before him, so maybe I could establish myself a bit better. He didn't have a really good support system, and he is very much a person that thrives on community. So, you know, like Kirsty mentioned how, like, they went to, they grew up in a Ghanaian community, you know, maybe went to a Ghanaian church or whatever. Like, we mostly didn't have that. So even amidst this economic crisis, we've had conversations like, yo, like, we've had to sit down and be like, Charlie, what are we doing? Like, are we going back? Are we staying? Like, what's going on? There's a lot of stuff up in the air. And he's like, no, I'm not going back. Like, as worse as it gets, I'm here. And sometimes I'm like, seriously? Really? And he's like, no, I'm not. Because for him, I think, anyway, that's a whole different conversation. But like mental health, you know, what is the quality of your life? And I think he thinks that, you know, you can make it work. Even if economically things are not as great as they could be, he thinks he has a better quality of life here. So he wants to be here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in your earlier submission, you spoke about having a 10-year plan.
Yeah.
I want to piggyback off that and let Kirsty. So, Kirsty, you have been researching in migration. Is it always the plan for people that you talk to have a plan to come back, or to have some number of years out there and then come back?
I think it varies from person to person. Okay. And I think also, you know, as in the case of my parents, it depends on what's going on in the country as well. Because there's people I've spoken to, you know, since I've been here in this time that just want to leave. I'm thinking about people in my own family that have tried to get ahead here as much as they can, but because of, you know, IMF conditions and things that are, you know, impacting the economic outlook of the country. I know one of my relatives lost a lot of money in stocks and bonds here, and he was feeling really frustrated about that because he was like, I didn't go buy a flashy car, you know, I didn't go, you know, do anything outlandish. I tried to be a good steward of my money, and I've lost it, right? And so things like that, people are feeling frustrated. So because of that, people want to, I think they just want to put Ghana in the rearview mirror for at least a little bit, maybe not forever, but they at least want to go and see what life is like, you know, outside of Ghana. And I think because, as you were saying, when people, you know, come from outside, and by outside, we tend to mean the West, although when we think about diaspora, I think we need to reconceptualize how we, you know, talk about it. But in this case, we can just say, you know, when people come in from the West with their dollars and pounds, etc., and because of exchange rates, money their money can go a little bit further. People, they want access to that, and so I don't fault people. Even though in conversations that I've had, I've tried to tell them it's not all paved with gold. In the U.S. and the U.K. things can be very difficult, but when things are difficult for people already, they're like, well, what? Well, I mean, exactly.
What's the worst that can happen?
What's more difficulty in a place where I can at least get more money to support myself and my family?
Dede, how is this affecting our creative and tech talents?
It's really tough. We are losing skilled workers. We are losing brain power. It's really tough. And like sometimes you go online, you'll see that Canada is doing like a skilled entry program. Maybe this year they're making allowance for 2,000 skilled workers. So if you're like a nurse, an accountant, or whatever, specific professions that they might list. And of course, people want to take advantage of that. Of course. So if you can imagine that maybe they're doing this program every quarter, 4 times a year, and we're just throwing figures here, but let's say 2,000 every time. That's 8,000 Ghanaians leaving in a year. Yeah. So even in a span of 3 years, what's going to happen, right? And if these people are in supervision or management positions, or they are also now teaching other people or passing their knowledge down to other people, now these people have left. So okay, who's going to teach? Who's going to teach now? Because maybe that was the person that was in charge. That was the person that has the most experience. What's going to happen now? So it's terrible. It's really, really bad. It's really bad. And then on the flip side, when you go to the West, you'll realize that in certain areas, it's all Ghanaians and Nigerians, like especially in the medical field. Do I hate to say it, but it's the truth, like, and you're just like, what's going on? And then whereas here, the Ghanaians here will be complaining about healthcare here. So how come we have so many Ghanaians in medical fields in America, in Europe, in Canada, and the Ghanaians here are complaining about healthcare here? We need to find a balance.
Okay, let me play the devil's advocate by introducing the element of the black tax.
Okay.
It's a reality in Africa. If you look at a working African and you see that person standing and you look at that person, if you tilt your head to this side, you see like 100 people behind that person. They are always dependents. He has to take care of them. If the person is not lucky and then the great-grandparents are alive, so great-grandparents and their siblings, grandparents, parents, plus siblings and others. This person who has to go out there and hustle has to take care of all these people. So can we say then that, if you do the mathematics, maybe you might strike even because remittances are coming in to take care of all these people.
But how far the remittance is taking us? You see, like, is it in terms of like remittances okay for the family? We can buy groceries just for the month, or remittances in terms of, they can put it back into the community. How, if you think about it, how far really do some of these remittances go? Okay,
so let's assume that you have Ernest who left Ghana working in the UK, for example, and let's say the person gets paid £5,000.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm being ambitious. £5,000. The person remits £1,000 to the parents.
What's the rate today? As of today, what's the rate?
I think it's almost
17 something.
17. Yeah.
Okay. So let's assume 17.
So that's 17,000 Ghana
17,000 CDs.
Split between both parents. They can be able to pay the electricity bills. They'll be able to have 3 square meals a day.
Definitely.
Able to take good care of themselves. Go to the hospital, see a doctor.
And when they go to the hospital and they see the doctor, what is the nursing condition like in the hospital that they're going to? As their daughter is away.
They get to go to the hospital.
But that's, I wouldn't say the conditions of the hospitals aren't, that's not the fault of the doctors, right? I think when we talk about migration and brain drain and things of that nature, I think there's a lot of reasons why people migrate, right? And when people talk about like health and in particular, saying like, all the good doctors are leaving and like the hospitals are just empty. Like I feel like we use brain drain as a scapegoat for the reasons why health, and in the case of health, right? Why health infrastructure is so poor. But when there are other structural reasons
why
that
people
that,
would leave.
exactly
Yeah,
that
not exactly because of
yes.
I sorry to cut you in, Kirsty. I would agree and I would disagree.
Okay.
Why I say that is because let's compare Africa to another continent that is also very heavily, or another country heavily populated with similar conditions. Let's say India. I think Ghanaians also, peer pressure. We like peer pressure. This one has left, so I have to leave. Hey, this one left, so I have to leave. Which, of course, is a matter of conscience. I'm not here to tell anyone how to live their life or how to cater for their families. But if you compare, I think that if it's in terms of passion, if it really comes down to, I actually do want to help people, it's not everyone that will go. I'm telling you. And I say this because, like, we even have a lot of people living here, not to the west, but to places like India. And they're like a lot of remote areas. They have similar conditions to Africans. And yet the doctors are there. Like, they want to help. They want to give back to the community.
But if
and I think it's about the mindset.
Passion doesn't pay bills.
No, but Africans, sometimes our mindset is off. I'll be honest. Sometimes it's about the mindset. It's not necessarily about, cash in hand or cash in pocket. Sometimes it's about the mindset. And I think if we learn as Africans to have a less selfish mindset, some of these things might actually be put in check.
So how will you react if someone says, okay, the day you are here, yabbling, mindset. Okay, so all these things that you're saying right now, you're saying it because you had the privilege of going to Canada to work there, have that experience. And so you've had a taste of a developed place, and it didn't work well for you. That is your experience. So let me also go. Let me also go and see whether that will work for me, and leave that decision for me to decide. You can't change my mind. I'm going.
Okay. Now I want us to veer from the health sector.
Okay.
Let's come to the creative ecosystem. So we have artists, music artists, people with various creative talents who are also leaving. And there are people with tech talents who are leaving. Why are they leaving? What's the impact for us? Because imagine a DJ or a musician leaving to go to Europe or the Americas. Do they carry that talent? Do they go to do the same thing there? It changes, right?
I think I want to die on this hill. Mindset. And when I say mindset, they appreciate artistic talents more over there.
Yes.
When you go, hairdressers, masons, carpenters, artisans, DJs, how much are they paid compared to here? Over here, your DJ comes, he's not playing the song that you want, you get angry. That's it. How much are they even paid? Even when we talk about celebrity lifestyle, look at our cousins. Look at celebrity lifestyle in Nigeria. Look at celebrity lifestyle in Ghana. Ghana, do we respect our celebrities? But when you go to Nigeria, it's about the mindset. Also, again, about the pay, how they're handled, how they can, progress and stuff like that. So I think for the artisans, I will understand. But my beef with me is that even if they go, everyone should try to, in a way, even if you can't come back, give back to your community here, or at least impart something, or at least come and teach other people how to do it as well. Go back, then we can go on,
Okay.
So that's happening though, and I think that's when people talk about brain drain and things, people forget that when people leave, it's not like they leave and they're not attached anymore. I think especially now in this age of this very digital age that we're living in, with the internet, social media, it's a lot easier now for people to remain engaged, for diaspora or immigrants to give back and to remain connected. So they, even if because traveling, if you're outside, traveling can cost money. So not everyone might be able to physically come, but there's still things that they can do and are doing. Aside from remittances, there's skills transfer. There's like all the there's so many different ways that people who are outside, and it's not even just the immigrants themselves. It's also, their children and now grandchildren, right? So second and third generations are now being a part of these, giving back, I guess, ecosystems, if you want to call it that. So when people leave, so that's why on the conversations around and they say brain drain, but it's more circular than that, because people are leaving, but ideas are still coming back. Money is still coming back. So those are things that I think we should remember. I also want to highlight, because we keep saying, Europe and the U.S. and all of that, right?
Okay, yeah.
So statistically, when people migrate, they tend to stay within the regions that they live in. So so most African migration is occurring within the African continent. It's a much smaller, much smaller percentage that is going to the US and the UK generally. Maybe now with like country specific, it might, those stats might look a bit different. But like the majority of people that are so like Ghanaians are more likely to go to Nigeria than they are to the UK or to the US. Because migration costs money, right? So the more money that people get, like the farther that they can go, right? But if you don't have that much money, you will be migrating more locally within, ECOWAS region or IFAD or whatever region that you're in. Like you are more likely to migrate within there. So I just want, because a lot of these conversations are Western focused,
right,
and I don't like that.
Yes, I get where you're coming from, Kirsty, but then that's the story that the statistics tells. But then we don't see a reporting of that on the news.
Right.
If you watch most of the channels, it's about a group of Africans in one ship.
Right.
One big ship.
Yes.
Trying to get to Europe.
Right. Right.
That is what we watch on the news. It's not about people trying to pass through the borders of Togo to go to Nigeria.
Right.
That is what we see. So in our minds, that is
what's more prominent.
Exactly. That's what, and it's all about going out there to seek greener pastures. But Kirsty, you have done a lot of work on the migration, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. They mention early on about mindset, and she feels so strong about that. She said that's even the hill she's willing to die on. Serious. From where you sit, do you think if we are able to reset the mindset of Africans, it will stop the migration trends we're seeing?
No, because people have been migrating since people could migrate, right? Like,
well, let me qualify the question. Migration triggered by,
economic conditions,
economic factors. So, I know you don't like it, but still to Europe.
To the West. Yes. Okay. Yes. No, I don't think there's anything people can do to stop migration, honestly.
Even with mindset.
Even I think no, because migration is it's a natural thing. It's a something that has been happening since people could move, right? Even I went to my hometown in the eastern region last weekend, and there I was learning the history of our hometown and how we, the founder migrated from Asante to a few different, places before they settled in. Yeah, before they settled in our town in the eastern region, right? So, and this was back, way back. People have been moving for a variety of reasons since time immemorial. So having better economic conditions doesn't necessarily mean people won't migrate. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot, especially around conversations around migration with the EU and Africa. Around conversations with the EU and Africa, people are thinking that better economic conditions will prevent people from migrating. And maybe for some people, but generally, no, because people will always be migrating, and people don't always migrate for economic reasons.
But in terms of maybe the rates and the stats, you think they might be lowered?
I mean, thinking about African migration now, I think the Africans migrate the least out of everybody, right? So I think we're only, is it 3%? I remember seeing a stat. I can't remember if it's African migrants or migrants totally, or the migrant population globally totally. That's like just 3%. I don't think, and there's a lot of talk, a lot of rhetoric about like this is the most migration we've ever had in the history of Earth, and that's it's not true, right? Again, like if we look at like country specific, like if we look at Ghana stats, there could very well be an increase of people leaving, right? And so because of like country specific, there could be a chance that if there's, things were better economically, people might leave less. But not leaving at all that's not realistic. People will always migrate.
Right. You mentioned Eastern region. That's the president's region.
Yes, that is the president's region.
Are you aware?
I'm aware, but that's not. But that's that.
I know. Maybe if I land, you know where I'm going.
Yes, I know where you're going. I know where you're going. It's a different side, please. It's a different side of the Eastern region, please. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Shalini, you have been in tech, or you've experienced the tech aspect. How is the migration impacting the tech sector? Because I know now it costs more to hire a tech person from outside or a tech person here in Ghana because of the migration pattern and the revenue that they are probably making with remote companies. How has that effect been, or what have you observed?
Okay, still comparatively, the wages that African tech talents get compared to colleagues in other ecosystems is on a lower scale. Still, that's also because of the way the compensation metrics are designed. So they take in a lot of factors, especially if you're working remotely. There are factors that they consider that goes into the determination of your pay. But if you compare that to similar roles, you'll realize that you're actually getting lower pay. So that is one factor. But the one key advantage that our tech talents get working with these corporations, is foreign corporations, is that they get exposure in terms of having an understanding of what is coming. So you have a lot of African talents working on cutting edge artificial intelligence products, and unfortunately, we don't have a system that will bridge, like that will serve as a bridge and then be able to access the knowledge that our brothers and sisters, are learning out there. Because I think there is a smart way that we can benefit from the whole migration of African brains. Because when they go and they are working with all these developed institutions, they are learning, they are getting exposure, they are getting to know things that we are yet to even discover here. So if we have a vehicle that enables us to tap into what they are learning so that those here can also benefit from that knowledge, that will be really, really profound. Because most of us are familiar with the story of how China developed itself, right? Sending their talents to the United States to learn. But the thing is, most of them were going back, or they had a way of sending back what they were learning back to China. And they were able to use that knowledge to come up with their own products and even vehicles and even compete with the United States. I believe we can have a similar thing in Africa. I just don't know.
You think your African brothers and sisters will do that?
Oh, why are you skeptical? Why are you skeptical? Why are you skeptical?
I'm not skeptical. I just think, again,
Mindset.
No, like how even here, take away the fact that we're talking about arts and, tech. If you look at the hierarchy of how things are done, like if you work maybe in a government institution or something like that, you come and meet somebody that's been there working 20 years. And maybe even like with systems, you need to keep our phones. We keep updating the software and everything. You've been in there 20 years, okay? But they don't want to hire maybe fresh talent to come and update their software, so to speak. It's always, you came to meet me, you're going to be under me, so be under me until I leave, then you can come and take over. Whereas in the West or in other countries, even like Africa, South Africa, whatever, you can go into an institution where, maybe the boss is 25 and he has people that are 50, 55 working under him. But over here, it's like it's such a problem. It's such a problem. And that's why, because it was here. So even with, with the Chinese going back, teaching them, those that were there, they were also willing to learn. It goes both ways. The information that they were carrying back, those there were also ready to receive it. So what about our brothers and sisters here? When they go or when they come back or when they're sending information, however it works, technology, we over here, are we ready to receive it? What is the reception like? How do we also make it easier for diasporans to connect with us? Okay. How are we here also making it easier?
And how do you think we can leverage the diasporan connection?
That's the day.
Afua as well.
Afua, yes.
Yeah.
All right.
I think, to be honest, outside of the industries that we're talking about, tech and arts, there's a lot of corruption in certain places with Africans, with our African brothers and sisters, which makes it difficult for people to trust us, to want to do stuff with us. If we're going to leverage some of these connections, we need to sort of give them assurance. We need to prove ourselves. When people come in with remittances, or recently, who was it that came and did something? Jaru. Mm-hmm. When people come in and they want to come and invest, or they're bringing finances or whatever, how then do we show appreciation or show them that, hey, listen, thank you for this stepping stone. This is how we are also going to maintain it or leverage it and, sort of meet you halfway or meet you where you are. Yeah. So that's up to us now, because they can't give us everything. There's only so much whatever can go. So whatever that we get, how do we also what is our maintenance culture like? Even with the recent African Games, they built this beautiful new stadium, and I had the chance to visit. I went to a couple of the games, but in my mind, I'm like, okay, so when the games are done, what are we going to do with this? Who's going to be doing the cleaning? Who's going to be doing the repainting? Who's going to clean the pool? Who's going to change the water? And I know it sounds like silly questions, but
you're going to get new stuff.
They are very relevant.
Yeah, but when we get that stepping stone from diasporans, how then do we show appreciation and leverage that? You see what I mean?
Okay, let me share one example. I won't mention a name, but we had a film producer and director from the States who came to Ghana sometime and did a number of productions. But she eventually left because she encountered so much frustration that she actually wrote pieces of her mind on
I saw that media. Because I'm a very big social media advocate. Yeah.
Okay, all right. But I don't want to mention it, but I'm glad you know her. And then left. And today we have a film industry that someone says is in coma. But this was once an industry that used to be a source of inspiration for
the entire continent.
Yes.
Yes. And today it has been crushed to the ground. I'm sharing this example not to support what you're saying.
Oh, you want to support me?
Yes,
admit it.
But to also bring to light some of the structural difficulties that we have, because I think people get to misbehave when structures are non-existent. So when structures are there and even people want to misbehave because of the consequences associated with whatever misbehavior that they intend, it sort of serves as a deterrence, to them. But we don't have that in place. So the thing about mindset is that I think, human beings, most of us, if we're left to us, we don't want to be in good behavior all the time. I want to mess up.
But where can we begin from?
Yeah, so it starts with having the structures in place. And that's why I'll go back to my earlier point about building bridges. Because if you build a bridge and you are able to come up with guardrails, terms and conditions, because you don't need everybody for these things. You need serious-minded people. When Kwame Nkrumah came and he was outlining the vision for Ghana, he didn't need all Ghanaians. He needed serious-minded, well-aligned Ghanaians to the vision that he had in mind. And we all saw the results within a short period of time. And we've seen those who have come with extraordinary vision, and we are also seeing their results as well. And if you compare that to Nkrumah's, you can clearly tell the difference.
Who is serious and who is not.
Thank you. You are saying that. I'm not. But that is the whole point. So what I'm saying is that, yes, we have mindset issues, but I don't want to generalize to say that that's the norm. Yeah, there are people who really want to transform the continent, who want to do something different. And if we are not careful and we generalize these things, it also affect their motivation.
Yes.
And for me, the last thing that is keeping, I believe the last thing that is keeping Africa alive right now is hope. Once that goes out, we are finished. So, Dede, I think we have to keep hope alive and we have to keep trying.
We pray that we don't run out of hope.
Because once hope is out of the picture,
everything is
the
gone.
continent is doomed.
Kirsty, can you speak to some initiatives that that builds the diasporan connection to Africa or Ghana? Any initiatives that you've encountered in your travels or in your research?
Just generally?
Yeah, generally.
Okay. Well, if I can, what is it called? Shameless plug for myself.
Okay.
In 2014, my cousin and I started the Nana Project, which is an online archive dedicated to preserving first-hand accounts of Ghana's history.
Okay.
That's what I said is when I say I'm a fake historian, it's in relation to that,
Right.
and that is an initiative that uses the internet technology. We sit with any Ghanaian elder, like over I think 60 or 70, and we ask them about their lives, what they remember about different points in Ghana's history. So some who I remember, there's one, actually the pastor of the Ghanaian church that I grew up in, we interviewed him, and he was 16 when Ghana became an independent nation, right? So he told me about what he remembered about that day, and even some of the elders in my family who are also, a bit older than him, what they remembered about different parts of Ghana's history, right? And that's something that, even though it was started outside of Ghana, it's for all Ghanaians, right? So that's that's something that and then in relation to that, I'm thinking of Sihene as well, which is started by my friend Rita. Hey Rita, if you hear this, who grew up in Ghana, went to the U.S., studied art. All of that has now come back, and Sihene is all about Ghana's chiefs, the chieftaincy institutions, and she's doing a lot of really great work around that. Like that's cultural, preservation, cultural heritage, things that are very important to us, right? So that's something else as well that that connects Ghana and the diaspora. Most of the things I can speak to are probably in the cultural culture, in the cultural sense, which I think is very important because that's the heart and soul of who we are as a people.
Okay. Afua, any initiatives you've come across that bridges this?
Most of them are the ones I know from social media, like Michael Blackson, the school that he built. I know Idris Elba also came and started like the film academy or whatever. So those are great because I'm very passionate about arts. Like our parents always want you to do like a doctor, lawyer, engineer. So
Right.
I'm very passionate about people that want to further the arts industry. So stuff like that. But back to Nee's point, even if they do send remittances, they can't come physically all the time, I hope that we are using the remittances wisely. I hope that now the structure is there, the physical structure is there, the kids have the school, they have the uniforms. I hope that when they need food, supplies, whatever that it is, the teachers that are going to come in and teach them, I hope we're paying them well. I hope the maintenance culture is continuing. Yeah.
And I think one other way that we can mainstream these issues is also make use of existing platforms.
Mm-hmm.
So in December right now, Come to Ghana has become
Year of return, yeah.
Exactly. Year of return has become a very big thing. And going forward, I think maybe if we have a thought leadership segment to it where we can have conversations like this, because all the borgas that are coming, the money that they are coming to spend, we can put in the pool of funds to do development projects, to develop the creative and tech sectors. I mean, it will really be an interesting byproduct of such a brilliant initiative as well. And so I'm actually looking forward to that dimension of the year of return, because we can be throwing parties, people will be coming here, having a lot of excitement and all of that. And 50 years will pass and this will be like an enjoyment enclave for people. But the whole...
With no real long-term plan.
Absolutely. So it's an opportunity that we must not waste. We have to leverage it and then maximize it as much as possible.
Okay.
I mean, even when it comes to tech, I don't know you guys' ages, but I think now when you say tech, maybe people have a certain idea, like social media, AI, whatever it is. But also, there might be talents that are not so exposed or don't have access to some of these things.
Right.
So for me, I always say, even with everything we're doing, go back to basics. Go back to foundational, like advertising on radio, or like seeking out talents on radio, or like visiting some of these communities and, seeking out talents and stuff like that, because not all of them have access to the tech that we think that they do. I think, what's his name? Jeremiah Owusu-Ansah, the quarterback.
Yeah.
Yes.
When he came in, when they went to communities, looking for people, again, like in the arts and, so stuff like that is necessary. But like Kirsty said, they can't always come physically. So if they can get people here to sort of like supervise that kind of exercise where we go on, advertise on radio, go to the communities by word of mouth, speak to some young ones, speak to some elders, seek out talents. Back to the basics is very important, even with progressing technology. Yeah.
Right. But Kirsty, I want to also come back to you on this. Oftentimes, people from the diaspora will want to be supporting local communities. It will be coming from a very good place. But oftentimes, people tend to read meanings into it. You think because you've spent so much time in a brochure, you think you know better than us. You come and lecture us and tell us what to do and all of that. Yeah. How can we ensure, collaboration, especially when it comes to the tech and arts spaces? The tech community in Ghana, the tech community in Washington, D.C., coming together to, exchange ideas, exchange knowledge, share that kind of things together, like within the framework of mutual respect.
Right. Yes. I think the number one thing is building relationships. Like that's the foundation of these things. So the people will work with people that they know and trust, right? And I think the internet is a really great way, because my family, we are now in Texas, but before I moved to the UK, I was living in the DC area. I was back there working, and I was, this was, say, like 2014. I was very active on Ghana Twitter, even though I was, even though I was in DC, and I was very active within the Ghanaian and the African diaspora space in DC as well. So on trips, when I would come to visit Ghana, I would connect with people that I knew from the internet, right? And so because we were able to establish relationships over, shared interest in things, from there we could then do work together. So I think using technology to as a bridge to build relationships with people in different places over a shared interest, number one. And then number two, I feel like there's already, and I think maybe the two of you would know because you're properly in the tech space, but I remember there's impact hubs. Like there's Impact Hub Accra, I know there's Impact Hub in DC, and I feel like there was some overlap exchange and things. So I know there are already institutions in place that are that have done the heavy lifting for us. I think we need to tap into those networks, into those spaces as well. And I think because that's relationships are also built built there as well. So I think using relationship building and using the infrastructure that's already there.
Okay, Kirsty, so what are some future trends that you observe or you can predict in terms of migrating of talents across from Africa to the Europe or Americas, and then also for those that are going to come back?
I think we'll see more circular migration. I think the world is so interconnected now that I think when people leave, I don't think it's going to be there's people who left in the 70s and 80s who just left and they were gone for the rest of their lives, essentially. I think we'll see people leave, be abroad for a bit, and then then come back as they did. And then I think we'll also see the children of immigrants, people like myself, and even now the third generation, the grandchildren, because those people are, at least in the Ghanaian context, are in their mid-20s now, right? And they're also coming for, Deti December and all of these things. So I think we'll be seeing people who left and their descendants engaging in circular migration. So coming for maybe a few months out of the year, or maybe coming to live for a few years and going back and coming back again. But and in that there will be, you know, flows of or exchange of money, exchange of ideas, all that relationship building. At least that's what I would like to see. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping would happen. But general trends, I anticipate more circular migration happening. Yeah.
Chalini, what have been your key takeaways from this inspiring conversation?
It's a lot, but let me try and then summarize them. So, yes. Mindset.
Okay.
Yes. I have to say that.
Yes, that's a
mindset.
Hill.
Yes.
That's
so
a hill
mindset transformation. and I love the explanation that I've been calling her the day you've been calling her Afua. So let me join.
What a good.
Yeah. Afua the day has been talking about, and I think the mindset transformation has to happen in both places, both here and then in diaspora as well. And that is really, really important because once we get that right, we'll be able to have established commonality when it comes to our engagements. And then also, Kirsty threw in some very interesting statistic, you know, that actually when you look at the migration trends, it's not that most Africans are leaving for Europe and then the West. They are moving to other places, actually. And for me, that suggests strongly that there are other reasons beyond economic factors that, you know, that is driving migration. And this is very, very important information that we should have at the back of our minds. And also about the future trends, what I'm also hearing is that in the future, migration is going to be very, very interesting in the sense that people will be migrating for a lot of reasons. One of them will have to do with maybe establishing collaborations, working with other people, or maybe out of curiosity to understand other systems, you know, explore other cultures, maybe marriage, or maybe wanting to spend more family time together and maybe produce more babies, you know. So these are the factors that will be coming. But it's really interesting, and I've enjoyed this conversation. Yes.
Thank you. We've been having a beautiful conversation discussing the impact of migration on tech talent and the creative sector. I've done this with Ni, Afua and Kirsty. Stick and stay with us and join us for another episode. Thank you so much for being here. Please subscribe to our channels, follow us, leave us a review, and more importantly, share our content. Thank you and bye-bye.